Colleagues, this bill follows up on SB 248 as coming out of these important oversight hearings that we held earlier this year. And while the senator from McGraw-Hill's bill covers sort of a broad range of Dogger activities, this bill seeks to establish criteria to specifically protect aquifers. We learned about the fact that there was all of this reinjection of toxic water that went into aquifers, including a number of non-exempt aquifers, and this seeks to bring the water board into the equation. So currently, before an oil company is allowed to drill a wastewater disposal or chemical injection well into an aquifer, they must obtain an exemption from the under the Safe Drinking Water Act for that aquifer that would come from the US EPA. Now, the problem is, and just to remind everyone, this was the subject of several hearings, but state regulators unfortunately allowed more than 2,500 wastewater and disposal and chemical injection wells to be drilled into aquifers that were not exempted under the Safe Drinking Water Act and therefore should have been protected. Now, let's talk about these fluids. They contain typically a toxic cocktail of chemicals, including benzene, arsenic, and radioactive material. It's true that most of those chemicals occur naturally because they're in hydrocarbon-bearing fields. Now, that still doesn't take away from the fact that these are carcinogens, and they're very dangerous. So the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources, known as DOGGR, and the Water Board have proposed a plan to examine these aquifers and seek exemptions from the Safe Drinking Water Act. The criteria that DOGGR is using to make this determination does not consider the current drought or the reality of future water shortages and the possibility that we may need access to deeper aquifers and adopt technology necessary to develop water that we may not consider feasible today. So this bill requires DOGGR to work with the Water Board and puts criteria in place to guide DOGGR and the board in determining which of the protected aquifers should be opened up for oil and gas, wastewater, and chemical injection, bearing in mind whether or not the aquifer should be maintained as a future water supply. Let's keep in mind that the drought problems, the water scarcity problems that we have as a state may be acute today, they're going to be acute into the future. And even if current technology doesn't make practicable the extraction or the use of water from harder to reach aquifers, that doesn't mean, given the pace of technological development, that doesn't mean that we're not going to soon have the technology to be able to either clean up or obtain water from other aquifers that are down under the ground that may currently seem a little too far out of reach. As a result, this bill has been supported by the Association of California Water Agencies, and each and every one of you have a set of water agencies doing the important work of providing clean, safe water to your constituents in the district. So this bill will seek to ensure that California's future water needs are considered when determining the appropriate location for oil and gas production and water wells, and with that, I very respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Allen. Debate or discussion? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam President, and with great respect to my good friend from Beverly Hills, one of the Mensch senators from Los Angeles.
That's terrible.
I rise in opposition to the bill. Efforts must be made, especially in a drought like this, to protect usable drinking water. Unfortunately, this bill goes well beyond federal standards and could have a chilling effect on oil and gas producers and thus jobs in the state. This bill would prevent injections into aquifers by preventing the state from even applying for an aquifer exemption, even if there is a potential for the aquifer to have or could in the future have a quote-unquote beneficial use. There is a significant difference between the drinking water threshold contained in the federal regulations and the water that has quote-unquote potential for beneficial use, including water that has naturally occurring hydrocarbons or carcinogens that the good senator brings up, and that we may not have the technologies to even extract these hydrocarbons or extract these carcinogens for many, many decades into the future. Members, state regulators have successfully regulated injection of produced water from oil and gas operations for decades. To date, there has not been a single case, not a single case, where the state has allowed injected water to taint drinkable water. This is just, unfortunately, another attempt to shut down another legitimate business in our state by making out the oil and gas producers out again to be the bad guy. For these reasons, I would urge a no vote.
Any further debate or discussion? Senator Pavley.
Yes, for those of you who saw the multiple-hour hearing in March of this year, I watched from at home while my husband was recovering from some medical problems. It was overwhelming evidence that we have to do a better job. State Water Board, in conjunction with Dogger, have to respect anything close to aquifer. Senator Allen's bill is really a thoughtful measure. It simply develops criteria to evaluate these aquifers, seeking to making sure that water supply isn't limited. We were putting these wastewater wells in protected groundwater basins as defined by the federal government. And looking at the possible beneficial uses, not just for today, for urban water consumption or for agricultural purposes, but we know that over time, and especially in conjunction with this drought, I'm finding a lot of people stepping up and trying to figure out how to use water that we didn't think we could ever use before now to help meet our challenges with the drought. For example, who would have thought of using treated wastewater in homes, not just for irrigation purposes, for reclaimed water, but for potable drinking water in your homes by treating wastewater? Who would have thought by putting in desalters we could clean up salts from agricultural purposes and make it so you could clean up groundwater basins to now actually help Ventura County farmers get some additional water supply so they're not faced with saltwater intrusion. That technologies are getting better and better, and so using today's standards on only the highest threshold of drinking water and agricultural purposes, yes, those are our top priorities today. But with the drought that's gone on 4 years, and in the future, experts predict volatile weather patterns, we need to build in that criteria and not preclude the possibility of using these aquifers cleaned up or certainly not added to the contamination. We need to preserve their ability to be used in the future. I commend Senator Allen for bringing this to our attention. He's sincerely interested in working with the State Water Board and Dogger and the oil companies in a balanced approach to accommodate both a vibrant oil industry and a protected groundwater supply. I urge my colleagues to vote for Senator Allen's measure.
Thank you, Senator Pavley. Senator Fuller.
I just want to say that I appreciate the intent of this bill, and so I won't use any names, but I will say that in my area, we have looked at this, and Doggart is the agency that is appointed by the governor again, and has the technical expertise and has spent all the time that working through to make sure there are no problems and working with all those stakeholders to make new regulations. And in this case, the water that we're talking about is water that comes out of the wells. Generally, it has hydrocarbons mixed in it. They're generally extremely salty, and there are small amounts. So there are many people looking at how, right now, how can we clean this water up and use it for something? but in most cases, it is not able to be used because the costs are too high. In a few, there are some that can be used for agricultural watering, but not many. And so the problem is that when you have the State Water Quality Control Board, which is pretty busy with all the other new regulations that we have, as the second agency, it just holds up permits, slows production, and in my area, people are being laid off as a result of the slowdown of permits. And yet, there has not been any real problems coming forward. So while I appreciate the forward-lookingness of this bill, I'm going to say that it is very slim benefit in the very distant future, but a very problematic and slowdown of the industry at this time. And so I ask you to perhaps reconsider this bill, and I will be opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fuller. Any further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Allen, you may close.
This will put some wells off limits, but just will not shut down operations. DOGR allowed 170 wells into aquifers that have a low enough salinity level to qualify them as potential drinking water sources. And so far, only a couple dozen wells have been shut down. That leaves 150 left that meet the criteria of the bill. That's 150 wells out of the 40 or 50,000 throughout California. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
All debate having ceased, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No. Bates. No. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No. Block. Aye. Canella. No. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Galgiani. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Hancock. Hernandez. No. Hertzberg. Hill. Wesso. Aye. Huff. Jackson. Aye. Lada. Leno. Leyva. No. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. No. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. Pan. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. Aye. Wolk. Aye.
Please call the absent members.
Galgiani. Hall. Hancock. Aye. Hertzberg. Hill. Huff. No. Lada. Leno. Monning. Nielsen. Pan. Roth.
Please call the absent members. One more time, please.
Galgiani. Hall. Hertzberg. Hill. Lada. Leno. Monning. Nielsen. Pan. Roth.
Senator Allen moves a call. Going back to file item 23, Senator Berryhill. Colleagues, file item 23. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 345 by Senator Berryhill, and Act to Fish and Wildlife.
Senator Berryhill.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I got a heck of a bill here for you today. SB 345, the bill formerly known as the Sport Fishing Stimulus Act of 2015, attempted to go a long way to help reverse the downward spiral that fishing license revenues have been in for the past 30 years. In fact, if we keep that downward trend in the next few years, we're going to lose federal matching money. So we really figured we needed to do something to stimulate people buying licenses. Unfortunately, the Appropriations Committee staff decided in their infinite wisdom that they knew this issue better than anyone. The bill now stimulates nothing but my angst at this process. Having said that, this bill does, however, create a reduced price junior fishing license for 16 and 17-year-olds, which hopefully will help stimulate some more license buying and give more opportunity to kids in the urban areas that don't usually they can't get out and go fishing. Maybe this will give us some opportunity to pick up a few more licenses. This bill hasn't received one no vote and has absolutely no opposition. We felt this was a great bill. Now we think it's a good bill. We urge your aye vote.
So you are asking for an aye vote, Senator Berryhill? Yes, I am. All right. Is there any debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to substituting a unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 36, no 0. Senator Berryhill, the measure passes. All right, moving along to file item 25, Senator Gaines. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 605 by Senator Gaines, an act relating to community colleges.
Senator Gaines.
Great. Thank you, Madam President and members. SB 605 recognizes the integrated regional economy of the Lake Tahoe Basin by offering good neighbor tuition rates at Lake Tahoe Community College to a limited number of students who reside in Nevada. This will only happen if the chancellor of the California Community Colleges deems that there is a reciprocal agreement in place with Nevada. This will not be one-sided. The eligible Nevada students would come from 6 small communities. No more than 200 Nevada students would be eligible in any one academic year. This bill will also sunset in 2022. There's a history of cooperation between California and Nevada to ensure success on critical issues, such as Lake Tahoe clarity, that are important to both states. SB 605 has no opposition and is another opportunity for the states to work together for the mutual benefit, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Gaines. Any debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to substituting a unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 36, no 0. The measure passes. Moving on to file item 26, Senator De Leon. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 654 by Senator De Leon, an act relating to hazardous waste.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, SB 654 is a follow-up to the problems of the Exide battery recycling plant in my district in Vernon, California. That was finally shut down earlier this spring after going over more than a decade without a full permit. This measure requires that the DTSC issue or deny a permit within 2 years of application. It requires earlier submittal of permit renewal applications. It also provides that if the process is not complete within 2 years, the facility is in a violation of the law. Therefore, obviously, we're asking the DTS to speed up their process, their protocols, get them on the right track. Their comportment as of late has been good, not good for the community, nor has it been good for business. Therefore, Madam President and colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Debate or discussion on this item? Is there debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Cannella? No. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Galgiani? Glazer? Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Hill? Aye. Wesso? Huff? No. Jackson?
Yes, aye.
Aye. Latta? Leno? Leyva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Runner? No. Stone? No. Vidak? No. Wykowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Bates? No. Galgiani? Glazer? No. Hertzberg? Wesso? Latta? Leno? Monning? Nielsen? Roth? No.
Senator De Leon places a call. Our next item, file item 27. Senator De Leon, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 734 by Senator De Leon, an act relating to public lands.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, SB 734 is an open government measure to increase public transparency in state land purchases and acquisitions. This measure requires the Natural Resources Agency to provide a single online portal for the public to find out about comment on land acquisitions by the state. The goal is to increase public transparency. There have been no votes on this measure. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Debate or discussion on this item? Is there debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Anderson. Aye. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Galgioni. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Huff. Aye. Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Lara. Leno. Leyva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Aye. Morrell. Aye. Wynn. Aye. Nielsen. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. Aye. Stone. Aye. Vidak. Aye. Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Hueso. Lada. Leno. Nielsen.
Ayes 35, no 0. The measure passes.
'41.
All right, file item 41. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 767 by Senator De Leon, an act relating to transportation.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this measure will allow Los Angeles County voters to decide if the local sales tax should be increased by ½ cent to fund very important transportation projects. If approved by 2/3 of LA voters, this sales tax and resulting projects will improve public transit, reduce traffic congestion, and promote sustainable regional development. Los Angeles, as we all know, is one of the nation's most congested transportation corridors, and with a projected population growth of more than 1.5 million people in the next 30 years, we can assume that congestion will only get worse unless investments are made to improve mobility. Traditional fuel tax revenues are not keeping pace with inflation and the proliferation of fuel-efficient cars and alternative fuel vehicles, while desired technological advances are reducing this funding. Consequently, counties have turned to the voters to provide the authority and funding for priority transportation projects. In 2008, Los Angeles voters approved Measure R to generate billions for transit and highway improvement projects, $36 billion over a course of 30 years. Although Measure R is drastically changing transportation in Los Angeles, the bottom line is further infrastructure investment is necessary. Residents, local governments, and transportation leaders in the region believe that there are thousands of worthy projects, particularly transit projects, which will not be funded by Measure R. Allowing LA County, Los Angeles County, to explore this new sales tax option will allow the region to determine its own future. The county will be able to expand its transit system, address key highway needs around the county, bolster local transportation products, and support sustainable development. This is about giving the voters a choice. With that, Madam President, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. Is there any debate or discussion on this item? Any debate or discussion? Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I rise in support of this measure. I should say a qualified support. I've been very involved in transportation issues previously at the local level, regional, as well as in the legislature. And this measure gives voters of LA County a choice on how to fund transportation projects and does require a 2/3 supermajority vote threshold for that passage. The last ½ cent sales measure for LA County did not pass, I believe, due to a bad mix of projects that favored the west side of the county over other areas. I have concerns this measure could have similar problems, especially since the measure is silent on what projects it will fund. This measure needs to be fairly fund projects for the San Gabriel, San Fernando, and Antelope Valleys, not just one segment of LA County. It's unfortunate LA County voters are having to make up the difference from the state's negligence in underfunding our transportation system. As with other counties that impose additional sales taxes for transportation, this measure helps LA County fund needed transportation projects. If it passes, the legislature and voters approve, I believe it really should be part of a larger package of infrastructure solutions, such as using transportation taxes and fees only for transportation purposes. We need to end the diversion of truck weight fees to the general fund first. That's $1 billion a year, folks. I'd like to see and hope we will have a complete list of projects this measure will fund before it comes back from the Senate for concurrence, but I stand in support today and urge your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Any further debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam
Oh, I'm
President.
sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Madam President. There's nothing that I love more than the Republican leaders standing in support and giving the people of San Jose County the power to have the choice to make a decision for their own self-determination. You know, so thank you very much, Mr. Leader of the Republicans of the Senate. With that, colleagues, I certainly ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator De Leon. All debate having ceased, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No Bates. No Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. No Gaines. No Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Hall. Aye. Hancock. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Hueso. Huff. Aye. Jackson.
Aye.
Aye. Lara. Leno. Leyva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No. Morrell. No. Wynn. No. Nielsen. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Runner. No. Stone. No. Vidak. No. Wykowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Glazer. No. Hancock. Hueso. Lada. Leno. Nielsen. Roth.
Ayes 22, noes 12. The measure passes. We're going to go back, colleagues, unless are there any other bills that any of the members wish to take up at this time on third reading? Any other bills that we haven't taken up that you'd like to take up at this time? All right, seeing none, we're going to go back to unfinished business, which is file item 10. Senator Hernandez, do you wish to take up file item 10? And we will be lifting the calls after we conclude the unfinished business. Senator Hernandez, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 125 by Senator Hernandez, an act relating to health care coverage and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, this bill is an urgency bill that updates California law to reflect the new post-ACA environment. Amendments taking the Assembly conform state law to federal requirements on how to count employees for the purposes of determining employer size for small and large group insurance markets. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Hernandez. Is there any debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to a unanimous roll call? Seeing and hearing none, ayes 36 on the urgency, ayes 36 on the measure. Assembly amendments are concurred in. File item 11, Senator Huff. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 52 by Senator Huff relative to Asian and Pacific Islander American Heritage Month.
Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, SCR 52 recognizes May as Asian and Pacific Islander American Heritage Month. Technical amendments were made in the Assembly and co-authors were added. We've celebrated this once before. We've also celebrated the Assembly version. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Any debate or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, is there any objection to substituting a unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 36, noes 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. All right, colleagues, we are going to go back and lift the call. We're going to take just a minute. We're going to wait for the conferees, and they should be here in just a moment. What's that? All right, we're going to lift the calls. We're going to start with file item 19. File item 19, the present count is 18 ayes and 16 noes. Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
De Leon? Aye. Galgiani? No. Hall? Latta? Leno? Aye. Nielsen? No.
Call the absent members, please.
Hall? Latta?
Call the absent members, please.
Hall? Latta? Latta, aye.
Or aye. All right.
Hall, aye.
Okay. Ayes 22, noes 18. That measure passes. Next up, we're going to skip file item 24. We're going to go to file item 26, Senator De Leon's matter. The current count 18 ayes, 15 noes. Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Galgiani? Hertzberg? Hueso? Latta? Aye. Leno? Aye. Monning? Aye. Nielsen? No.
Call the absent members.
Galgiani? Hertzberg? Hueso?
Ayes 21, noes 16. That measure passes. That will Senator Allen, we have your matter left on call. The rules, Senator Allen, the rules require we dispense with the matter. And without objection, then, we will lift the call. Mr. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Galgiani? Hall? Hertzberg? Hill? Aye. Latta? Leno? Aye. Monning? Aye. Nielsen? No. Pan? Roth?
All right, closing the roll. Ayes 17, noes 17. The measure fails without objection. Reconsideration is granted. Ayes 39, noes 0. And that concludes the calendar for today. The desk is clear. Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, we finished 218 bills since Monday. We are done today, 2:07 p.m. We'll be able to go back, well, the vast majority will be able to go back home to their districts. We'll stay here and deal with the budget, the conferees, as well as myself and the good staff that we have here in the Senate. Thank you very much for your hard work. 218 bills. A good accomplishment. Have a wonderful, productive next few days in your district with your constituents, as well as the weekend. We will reconvene on Monday at 2 p.m. See you Monday at 2 p.m. Thank you.
The Senate will be in recess until 3:30, at which time the adjournment motion will be made. We reconvene Monday at 2 p.m.